And so now we have one of our favorite cellists in the whole entire, not only Pacific Northwest region, but the whole world.
Yeah.
We have Hamilton Cheifetz. He's going to play one of his beautiful numbers. He teaches at Portland State University. He's obviously in the Portland group, and he also plays in a trio. So let's have a wonderful welcome round for our dear brother, Hamilton Cheifetz.
I'm feeling really grateful tonight to see so many of you, and also because I'm going to play a little piece by Bach. J.S. Bach wrote 6 suites for cello. No one asked him to write these. No one paid him $1 to write these suites. For some reason, he got it in his head to write all these wonderful pieces for cello. So, as a cellist, I'm especially grateful. And then there's Pablo Casals, who was born in 1876 in Catalonia. And without Pablo Casals, none of us would ever know the Bach cello suites, because he was the first person to perform the Bach suites in public. And he was a champion of the music of Bach his whole life. So I also want to thank the person who gave me this cello about 18 months ago. It was made in Paris in 1760, and it's just a beautiful cello to play Bach on. So it's a cello that kind of says, yes, I want to speak. Just touch me and I'll speak. And not all cellos are like that. Some take more effort. This cello, it offers itself up very readily, which is special. So this is the Allemande from the first Bach suite in G major. Thank you. Next, I'm going to play a piece called Song of the Birds. It's important to know that not only was Pablo Casals maybe the greatest cellist musician in history, but he was also a remarkable human being. He was born in 1876. He was Catalan during the Spanish Civil War. He fled Spain. He left a huge villa and a glorious career that brought him wealth and adoration all over the world. And never again did he play a solo concert. And he lived until the 1970s. He died at the age of 96, and he spoke at the United Nations several times about justice and world peace. And he went into, in other words, a self-imposed exile as a protest against Franco and the fascist regime in Spain. Well, this got attention because he was a very illustrious figure and very articulate and eloquent. He did sometimes play this piece, the Song of the Birds, which was a Catalan folk song, which he played in order to celebrate the culture of his homeland, a homeland that he never got to see again for the rest of his life. He lived in Puerto Rico. Every day he would play Bach. One of my favorite stories about Casals, he was about 92 years old. He was practicing. And after about an hour, the person listening outside knocked on the door and said, "Maestro, what's going on? For 75 years, you've been the greatest cellist in the world, and you're in here practicing like some student or something." He looked at the guy and said, "I'm beginning to notice some improvement." So, I mean, I love this story because Casals talked a lot about how hard he had to work in order to get the results that he got, which is not always the way it is with great artists. Sometimes they lie and say they didn't have to work very hard. But Casals was very honest about it. So, in his honor, this is Song of the Birds. sometimes I say that this was a Catalan song, but it could be a Ukrainian song, it could be a Jewish song, it could be a Russian song. It's a kind of a universal melody, it seems to me. So the last thing I'm going to play for you tonight is a piece that came about because I have an older brother who rarely gave me advice, usually only when I asked, and it was always very wise advice. And about 30 years ago, he gave me some advice unsolicited, and the advice was, you should compose something. And I said, oh, well, that's easy for you to say. I'm always playing Bach and all these masterpieces, and I'm not a composer, so how could I have the nerve to write something? And he said, well, it doesn't have to be any good. That's really what he said. And then he said, you could write something for children, something short. And I thought, well, that's a liberating idea, and I thought about it for a couple of months, and then a student came in who was playing a piece that Maurice Ravel wrote as a dedication to his teacher, Fauré. And he based the piece on the letters of Fauré's name, the notes, fa, ut, re, which are 3 musical notes. And so he constructed a piece on that. Well, at that time, my brother's initials were DC. 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 Or you can go up to the C. So that got me started. And I just played around with those notes and some chords that occurred to me after that. And I wrote what I thought was the piece, and then I discovered that's not the piece, that's just a bass line of a piece. And so then I wrote a little melody over it. So my friend Morris is going to play cello 2, which plays the bass line. And the first time through, I'm just going to play some little pizzicato chords to stay busy. And then the second time through, I'll add the melody on top. And some of you have asked me how my brother's doing. My brother's doing very well. I saw him in March. I'm going to see him again next month. And we're making it a point to see him as often as possible. And he's himself, and he's doing very well. So thank you for asking about him. It takes 5 seconds or something.
Yeah, I know. We could have a few more days of that.